Walk down the cereal aisle of any American grocery store. You feel a warm, nostalgic glow. You see the brightly coloured boxes and the impossibly soft bread. You probably think these legacy brands are serving you the exact same wholesome recipes your grandparents ate. You are entirely wrong. You are actually pushing a cart through an unregulated chemical waste dump. The rest of the developed world looks at American food the way we look at a raccoon eating a discarded battery, with a mixture of pity and mild disgust. American marketing departments have spent decades convincing you that their snacks are the pinnacle of freedom and flavour. Meanwhile, almost everywhere else on the planet has literally criminalised these ingredients. But do not feel bad. You just fell for the oldest trick in the corporate playbook. It's slap a shiny red logo on a known toxin and call it an American classic. Let us start with the foundation of every good childhood lunch. White bread. In the early 20th century, baking bread was a tedious process. It required time, patience, and actual skill. Naturally, the industrial food complex hated this. Waiting for flour to age naturally so it bakes well means you cannot leave the factory by 5 o'clock. Enter an obscure group of industrial chemists who had a surplus of potassium bromate. They realised that if you just dump this explosive chemical into the dough, the bread rises incredibly fast. It also becomes unnaturally white and squishy. It was a game-changing innovation that everyone claimed they invented. There was just one minor issue. Potassium bromate is an oxidizing agent that causes thyroid cancer in lab rats. And if you haven't put it together, I'll do it for you. It probably does the exact same thing to humans. Most of the world looked at this data and immediately banned it. Europe, Canada, China, Brazil. They all decided that bread should probably not contain explosive chemical oxidizers. But American corporations looked at the exact same data and said, "Sounds great, let us put it in the hot dog buns." The official corporate history will tell you that it is perfectly safe because the baking process cooks out the harmful chemicals. That is a lie. Tests routinely find residue in the finished product. But the marketing was brilliant. They sold Americans on the idea that good bread should have the structural integrity of a damp sponge. And we bought it. Because who wants to chew a crust when you can just dissolve a sandwich on the roof of your mouth? But potassium bromate was not enough. The bread needed to be even squishier, so the industry adopted azodicarbonamide. You know how it is when you are making a sandwich and you think, "I really wish this bread had the exact same chemical composition as my yoga mat." We have all been dealing with that problem for years. Azodicarbonamide is a chemical foaming agent originally designed to make shoe rubber and plastics. Sometime in the mid-20th century, a brilliant executive figured out it also makes dough super stretchy. Why pay for high-quality gluten when you can just steal an idea from a shoe factory? Again, the rest of the world banned it. In Singapore, using it can literally land you in prison for up to 15 years. In the United States, it is just called the dollar menu. Fast food companies spent years putting shoe rubber in their sandwich buns and telling you it was their signature bakery style. They only stopped recently because a teenager with a food blog pointed it out and embarrassed them. That is right. Not even the company can get their own legend straight. They claim they use the highest quality ingredients, but they instantly dropped their secret family recipe the second someone read the label out loud on the internet. Now let us wash down that shoe rubber sandwich with a refreshing citrus soda. For decades, Mountain Dew and similar drinks have been marketed to teenagers as the fuel of extreme sports. The commercials show people jumping out of helicopters and riding snowboards off skyscrapers. It is pure corporate cynicism. With the only thing extreme about these drinks is the suspension mechanism holding the flavour together. Citrus oils do not naturally mix with water, they separate. And nobody wants to buy a neon green soda with a sad, oily puddle floating at the top. So the beverage industry needed a fix. Did they use natural emulsifiers? Of course not. They used brominated vegetable oil. or BVO. BVO was originally patented as a flame retardant for plastics. It keeps things from catching on fire. Sometime later, beverage companies realized it was also really good at keeping artificial flavors perfectly suspended in liquid. So they essentially stole a chemical designed for couch cushions, dumped it into sugar water, and slapped an extreme sports logo on the can. And the marketing worked flawlessly. Millions of people willingly drank flame retardant because the television told them it would make them cool. Over time, medical reports started surfacing about people who drank too much citrus soda and developed memory loss, skin lesions, and nerve problems. Because consuming large quantities of bromine builds up in your fatty tissues. Europe and Japan banned it immediately. American companies just kept selling it. They only recently agreed to phase it out, mostly because it was getting too hard to hide the fact that their flagship beverages shared an ingredient profile with a fire extinguisher. Anyway, let us move on to the main course. If you think the meat industry is any better, I have terrible news. American pork and beef are heavily restricted in over 160 countries. But the problem here is a little drug called ractopamine. In the late 20th century, agricultural mega-conglomerates realized they had a problem. Feeding animals takes time and food. They needed a way to make pigs get extremely muscular, extremely fast, while eating less. Enter a desperately ambitious pharmaceutical researcher who invented ractopamine. It is a beta-agonist drug that forces the animal to pack on lean muscle right before slaughter. The corporate marketing department spin this as a triumph of agricultural efficiency. They claim it is eco-friendly because the animals eat less feed. The reality is slightly more pathetic. The drug is so aggressive that the animals often suffer from tremors, broken limbs, and an inability to walk. It is a miserable existence. But dead meat does not complain, so the industry loved it. Whereas the real issue is that the drug stays in the meat. When humans eat it, it can cause elevated heart rates and cardiovascular stress. The European Union looked at the research and banned it. China banned it. Russia banned it. Let me repeat that. Russia, a country not exactly known for its rigorous health and safety standards, looked at American pork and said, "Absolutely not, that stuff is poison." But the American regulatory agencies, heavily lobbied by the meat industry, declared it perfectly fine, so the companies kept pumping it into the food supply. The only reason anyone believed their story about efficiency and safety is because they had a bigger lobbying budget. Oh, hello, every major corporation ever. Let us move on to dessert. American candy and cereal aisles are a psychedelic nightmare of artificial colours. Red 40, yellow 5, goes yellow 6. These are petroleum-based dyes. Yes, petroleum. The same stuff you put in your car. Originally, food colouring was made from natural sources like beets or bugs. But natural ingredients are expensive and unpredictable. The chemical industry swooped in and offered a cheaper alternative derived from coal tar and crude oil. Big food companies instantly stole the concept and built entire empires around it. Take Skittles or any brightly coloured fruity candy. The marketing departments have spent billions convincing you to taste the rainbow. They act like these vivid colours are an essential part of the flavour experience, but it is all a fabricated, ridiculous origin story. The colour does not add any flavour. It is literally just there to trick your primate brain into thinking you are eating ripe fruit, when in reality you are eating flavoured corn syrup mixed with crude oil runoff. Studies began linking these synthetic dyes to hyperactivity in children. And once again, the European Union stepped in. They did not outright ban all of them immediately, but they required a massive, terrifying warning label on any food containing them. This is where the corporate betrayal peaks. American mega-conglomerates faced a choice. They could change their recipes globally to remove the petroleum dyes, or they could make two different versions. They chose the latter. If you buy a pack of Skittles or M&Ms in London, the colours come from natural fruit and vegetable juices. They are slightly less vibrant, but they do not require a warning label about child hyperactivity. If you buy that exact same product in Los Angeles, you get the cheap, synthetic, petroleum-based dyes. The companies claim that Americans simply demand brighter colours. They literally blame the consumer for the toxic ingredients. They pretend it is impossible to change the recipe in the United States, even though they have already done it for Europe. It is the ultimate corporate gaslighting. They sell you a cheaper, more dangerous product, charge you the same amount, and tell you it is what you asked for. Not bad for a day's work. We cannot forget about titanium dioxide. It is a whitening agent used in paint, sunscreen, and, for some bizarre reason, salad dressing and candy. It makes things look opaque and bright white. American food companies love it. It makes powdered donuts look powdery and ranch dressing look incredibly white. A few years ago, the European Food Safety Authority concluded that titanium dioxide could no longer be considered safe as a food additive because they could not rule out its ability to damage DNA. So Europe banned it. In the United States, it is still in thousands of products. You are eating the exact same chemical compound that makes the paint on your walls look fresh, and the companies just shrug and tell you it is perfectly fine because they have tested it thoroughly. Wait, no, that is incorrect. They actually just say the FDA classifies it as generally recognized as safe, which is a legal term meaning nobody has died immediately in the lobby of the corporate headquarters. Fast forward through the decades, and these foods have only mutated into weirder, highly categorized diet fads. When the low-fat craze hit, the companies ripped the fat out of their products and replaced it with extra sugar and even more chemical emulsifiers to keep the texture from turning to dust. When the keto craze hit, they ripped the sugar out and dumped in artificial sweeteners and synthetic fibers. The core philosophy never changes. Find the cheapest industrial byproduct available, replace the actual food with it, and spend $50 million on an ad campaign telling the public it is a game-changing breakthrough in nutrition. The entire American food supply is a masterclass in marketing over reality. The legacy brands you grew up loving are mostly just chemical delivery systems, optimized for shelf life and profit margins rather than human consumption. They took ingredients meant for rubber shoes, couch cushions, and crude oil barrels, and convinced an entire nation that this was what freedom tasted like, and we ate it up, literally. So the next time you bite into a perfectly squishy hamburger bun or drink a neon soda, just remember, you are not experiencing a classic American recipe. You are just participating in a very long, very profitable science experiment. And the control group is the rest of the entire world. Go ahead and confess everything in the comments below. Anyway, please donate or subscribe to fund the next video.